Jules Vasquez, welcome to the podcast. So lovely to have you. I know a lot of my followers adore what you do, and I was excited that you agreed to come on the podcast. But for people who don't know about you, in basic terms, you are a health scientist and you specialize in health informatics. You're also a professor and you have many qualifications and you're self-educated, and we're going to get into everything today as much as we can in an hour, discussing how to really understand what's happening with our brains in regards to our memory loss, inflammation, how we can help that. So let's go. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on Model Health, and I've checked out your page and your past podcasts, and I just have so much appreciation for what you're doing and the information you're providing people. So I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you. Well, I don't think I'm making as much of a difference as you, but like you, we're just trying to play a part, just trying to make a difference, even if it's only a few people, at least we're making some sort of difference.
Yeah, and it has a butterfly effect. If you help one or two people, then they might help one or two people and it expands. So even if something seems really small, it makes a difference in the long run, and that's the most important thing.
I always think about that. Like, if I touch a butterfly's wings, how is this going to affect the world?
Hmm. Exactly.
So, firstly, this area of science so specialized, and we think of people who study the brain and brain sciences as like highly intelligent, which I've no doubt you are. But why did you even get into this in the first place?
Yeah, great question. It is kind of a unique story how I got into this. A little bit of background, I was an athlete my entire life. I competed at the highest level in Division 1 soccer and the most competitive conference in the country. And so I was always fascinated about the body and, how could I optimize my performance? And so I always had that background of interest in science and in the body and in biology and what it was capable of. And while I was competing, I sustained over 20 concussions, multiple minor concussions, and then one major concussion that left me pretty damaged, I would say. And so it took me a really long time to recover from this concussion. I had to see one of the best neurologists in the country. Thankfully, I was at a top program, a top university, so I had access to the top doctors.
Mm.
And I just asked a million questions through my recovery process. What is going on in my brain? Why am I having these vision issues? Like, why can I not recover? Like, all these different things. We would take baseline tests to determine if we did have a concussion. And my test results while I was concussed were absolutely rock bottom compared to my baseline. And I just found that so fascinating. Like, my reaction time was way slower, my ability to remember things was way slower. Everything was just completely off. And so through the process, I developed this natural curiosity for the brain and to try to understand what was happening and how do I overcome this. And so that's kind of when it sparked for me, I would say. And then after I finished my soccer career, I actually struggled with an eating disorder for a lot of different reasons. Just partially like losing my identity as an athlete, always feeling like I had to be perfect to compete at the highest level. So lots of different things went into that. But obviously, an eating disorder is a mental health condition. So I wanted to understand, why do I feel stuck in this? I was very aware of what was happening to me, but I didn't understand it. And so, kind of the combination of like my history with concussions and then the eating disorder, I was like, I want to understand what's going on in my own brain. And so I just naturally got curious. I got my master's degree in health informatics. I started to self study neuroscience after that. And I became a teacher at a top university in health sciences. So I am really good at taking really complex health data and then kind of extracting concepts and making it easier for people to understand. And that's exactly what I did for myself. And that's what I love to share with people now through my page. So that's kind of a long winded way to explain how I got to where I am.
Well, it shows, and this is a big aspect of health and education and brain health, is that when we're truly, truly interested in something, we we obviously delve really deep in it, but also we understand it better. And then when you open your mouth to explain it to people, it's very clear that you
Mhm.
understand it. I can't remember who said it, but basically the saying was, if you can't explain something very clearly where other people can understand it, you can't understand it.
Yeah.
But I think there's a huge aspect of you have to be interested to like really delve deep.
Absolutely. I think natural curiosity is one of the most important characteristics of anybody who is trying to achieve anything. If you don't have this like internal passion or curiosity for something, you're not going to be able to go very far with it because you're not going to have that drive or that motivation to go do something. And I always think about it this way. Like if I'm not able to explain a concept to a kindergartner in a way that they would understand, then it's not going to be able to be effective for most people. So that's why like I can talk about neuroscience and these really difficult concepts and but it's not going to translate for people. So what I try to do is like pretend I'm talking to a kindergartner, making it really simple and like accessible for people. And I think the passion and that curiosity combined with the ability to simplify and communicate is really like what helps people in the long run. And so yeah, that's what I try to do.
I think so. Not only do people not understand a lot of the science, I would propose that a lot of people don't have the time to even try
Yeah.
to So they're just like, just tell me
Mhm.
what this means, just tell me what to do. And that's what I try to do. Even on my Instagram, if someone asks a question, I try to just tell them this is exactly what it means and this is what to do without kind of overcomplicating it because a lot of the time they don't even want to know. They're like, just tell me.
Yes. Agreed. Yep, absolutely.
So what we were going to discuss today kind of stemmed from your Instagram page, which is incredible. It's so fun that I haven't came across another page like it. Your stories pop up every Sunday evening, actually. I see them and I like them. And the one you did the other day with the nail file and one was a highlighter. I was like, oh, I got them all.
Good job.
And
Yes, I remember you commented. I was so excited. I was like, yeah, she got it.
your was named after a gorilla or something like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. From Tarzan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to think I have a pretty good memory, but I also say to people, it's part of my profession. It's what I've been, not the brain, but it's been my job for 20 years to take care of myself and
Mhm.
obviously understand some of the literature and just optimizing my brain health is always a big thing because a teacher. I need to be able to think and retain information. Although this morning I just couldn't get words out and I was like, oh my God, what's going on? My brain's not working. But it's also day one of my cycle as well. So I'm like, ugh.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
That'll do it. Yep.
So right now, where I kind of reached out to you, I said, a lot of my clients as they're getting older and even my followers and not to limit it to the older age group either because I see a lot of this in younger people like a
Mhm.
lot that their cognitive abilities are either declining or they're hit and miss. Like one day they're on point, the next day they're not on point. So what are you seeing here, not only in the literature and your experience, like what's happening to our brains that not only we're seeing the increases in dementia, but also people having a lot of neuroinflammation, the brain
Mhm.
fog, the memory recall issues. Let's get into that.
Yeah, so there's so many different things that go into brain health in general, and there's so many reasons why inflammation is on the rise and why people are experiencing more brain fog and all the things. Um, on a very basic level, our biology has not changed in 10,000 years, more than 10,000 years. So our genetic makeup has not changed, but our world, our modern world has changed so much. We did not evolve to live in the modern world that we currently are in. We did not evolve to have constant communication, email pings, news notifications, like the amount of stress surrounding us. We did not evolve to manage that amount of stress. So I would say one of the biggest culprits of just inflammation in general is chronic stress. Whether that comes from, like I just mentioned, constantly getting pinged and notified with a million emails, whether that is our food system, whether that's pesticides, whether that's the microplastics in our food, or just a bad relationship. All of those things compound into be this large amount of stress that most people don't get reprieve from. And so that creates inflammation, and then it just kind of bubbles up and has systemic effects on our body and our brains. Yeah, I and it starts at such a young age now, because even our little ones have access to their iPads and they're constantly stimulated, and they get outside less often. There's this one stat that, like, I don't want to butcher it. The users can look it up, or maybe you can put it in your notes, but most kids get outside less than people who are in prison at this point. That's how much, like, we're constantly inside on our devices looking at screens, which is a stress for the body because there's never reprieve from all this stimulation. So I would say, yeah, one of the biggest causes is just chronic stress and all the different areas that can come from.
So I would like that's powerful, and I think like that's going to drive things home for people. I'd also argue that, and I'm not sure because I have not been to prison, but they don't have access to electronics. Like they've got access to some gym equipment and books. So
In books.
really, people in prisons have an advantage over the rest of us because their stress is pretty low. Yeah, you're in prison and you might get shivved, but it's
Mhm.
pretty low. So that is powerful and makes me scared. I'm like almost at the stage, I have a young boy and I'm like, well, you're coming outside with me for a walk. I don't want to. Well, if you don't, I won't let you on your laptop or whatever. So I have resorted to a form of blackmail, but I got to do what I got to do. So
Yeah.
so with this overstimulation, especially from electronics. And so we've got like what we're talking on, we've got our phones, got computer games, then TV. And I'd even argue Kindles. I don't think Kindles are a good idea, even though people think they are. So it's everywhere. And when I do conversations like this, or I'll do like a group call or just whatever I'm recording, the neuroinflammation I experience is extreme. My eyes will get dry, my mouth will get dry. I'll feel the almost swelling in my
Pressure.
head.
Yeah.
I'll feel the closing in on my neck and chest. Like it's powerful. Um, and and I noticed that because this is my job. How many other people would notice something like that, or they just think it's normal? Oh, I just have a headache or something.
I think a lot of people have come to just assume that it's a normal part of our life now. And I think most people don't have the tools to, or haven't been exposed to the tools to get their nervous system back on track. So when we are constantly stimulated and we are constantly on screens, like, we're getting the blue light into our eyes, and light is one of the most powerful pathways we have to our brain. We are constantly in conversations, having to think critically all the time. It's just so many different signals to our nervous system that, like, oh, you have to be on, you have to be ready to go. And I know this is a really common metaphor that people use, but it's true. Just kind of how I was saying, our genetics haven't changed in over 10,000 years, but our environment has changed. Even think 5 years ago how much things have changed.
Mm.
Um, we our brain and our body doesn't know if the stress is coming from an email or having to be in a meeting, or if it's we're being chased by a tiger and our survival is being threatened. Our brain and our bodies don't know the difference between stress. Stress is stress, and when we feel stress, our sympathetic nervous system is activated. When our sympathetic nervous system is chronically activated and we don't get reprieve from that, we get a chronic elevation of cortisol. cortisol in itself is not a bad thing, but when it's chronically elevated, it leads to systemic inflammation, which of course will affect your brain. It'll give you brain fog. It'll affect your ability to sleep. It's going to affect nearly your ability to digest, which then goes back to your brain because of the gut brain axis. And yeah, there's just so many things. And so I think most people just don't have the tools and they don't realize how to signal safety to their body. And it's inevitable. We're going to have access to electronics. We're going to have to be on meetings. We're going to have to answer emails. But you have to be so intentional about signaling safety to your body so that you can get out of that stressed state when you need to. And I just think people don't have they're not aware of the tools in order to do that.
And even if they are aware of the tools, I think just because of how we live nowadays, it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
People know what they have to do, but they just can't get around to doing it. And then you bring it up and then you make them almost feel guilty because they didn't do it. And it's like, as we say, it's a catch-22. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do we get out of this?
Mm-hmm.
So I have a few questions around the inflammation because inflammation just, that topic comes up everywhere.
Yeah.
So my first question with the inflammation and even the overstimulation from the blue lights and electronics, is it a case that it's causing brain cell death, or is it that it's causing the neurons to misfire or not connect properly? Like, where is the damage coming from there? And then the second part of that is this, because I always wonder about this, is it the inflammation that's causing issues with memory recall, or is it more the sleep aspect, which I want to get into, that is causing issues with memory recall?
The answer is all of the above. Inflammation is kind of the foundation for things to go awry. So the way you can think about it is if you have a normal turning gear, if you imagine that in your mind, and when the gears are working properly, they turn as they should at the same pace as they should in the correct direction that they should. But if something comes in and disrupts that gear, it's going to have a downstream effect on everything else. So if it disrupts one of the gears, that gear is not going to be able to turn, which is going to affect this thing over there, which is going to affect that thing over there. Everything is connected. And so kind of inflammation is that first, not the first step. There's many steps before the inflammation, but the inflammation is what gives everything else it it affects everything else that will not allow it to function properly. So that might look like just like stress in the brain. That might look like underfiring in some areas, misfiring in other areas, overstimulation in some areas. So when we're constantly stressed, and might be a good way to explain it, when we're constantly stressed and our cortisol is elevated, that in itself causes inflammation in the brain. When our cortisol is elevated, our insulin is not firing as it should. We become insulin resistant, which means insulin is you can think of it as the key that opens the cell to allow glucose to shuffle into that cell. If we're insulin resistant, that means that insulin is not going to open a key to the cell. And so our insulin builds and builds and builds in our body because the glucose is not being shuttled into the cell because it's not working correctly. Chronically elevated insulin also causes inflammation in the brain. So it's all a downstream effect because then when insulin is elevated, that disrupts our hormones. And if our hormones are disrupted, then that affects our entire life because our hormones make us who we are. And in that, when our cortisol is chronically elevated, there's certain areas of our brain that are going to be overactive, and then other ones are going to be downregulated. So the amygdala is kind of like the smoke detector of our brain. It tells us, oh, something's wrong over there. Oh, there's a fire over here. Oh, like you should be afraid of that. And when that part of our brain is super, super active, our prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for logic, planning, decision making, focus, attention, working memory, all of our executive functions, our prefrontal cortex is downregulated, which then is when people are going to be experiencing the brain fog and the inability to remember things and lack of focus. So it's all connected. There isn't one direct cause for one particular thing. It really truly is a feedback loop. And that's what's amazing about our brains and bodies is everything is talking to each other, and it's such a unique and powerfully complex system.
Mhm.
Um, and that's why getting the foundations right, quality sleep, getting proper nutrition, getting exercise, all of those things are so, so important because it keeps the gears moving as they should.
So is the prefrontal cortex, when that down regulates or malfunctions, is that what's involved in kind of overthinking things, ruminating on things? When we respond to something too fast without giving it a minute to really process, is that
Yeah.
where that comes from?
Yeah, so the prefrontal cortex is responsible for a lot of our cognitive flexibility, our inhibitory control, which is kind of what you just pointed on with our ability to like not react impulsively to something, but to like take a beat, assess the situation, and then make an intelligent decision that aligns with our goals and objectives. So when our amygdala and when our limbic system in general, which is like our emotional part of the brain, again, you can think of it as the smoke detector telling us when things are going wrong or like the alarm system when that's super heightened because we're chronically stressed all the time, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for all those things, the inhibitory control, the self-regulation, the selective attention, the working memory, that's not firing optimally. And so, yeah, they have an inverse relationship. But then if you do the opposite, if you go outside, you go for a walk in nature, you take deep breaths, then you're going to get out of your sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight, and you're going to get into your parasympathetic, the rest and digest. The amygdala is going to turn down a little bit, giving room for the prefrontal cortex to start working again. So if you ever like in a really difficult meeting or you've been working on a project for a really long time, you're like all in on it, you're super focused for a while, but then you kind of hit that switch where you're like you
Come
just feel
out.
completely
Yeah.
overwhelmed, you're getting stressed. That's the point where your prefrontal cortex is like, all right, it's shut off. You're now into your stressed state. You need to take a little bit of a break. You need to go out for a 10-minute walk. You come back and you're like, oh, this was the solution I was looking for. Because you're
Hmm.
able to shift between those areas of your brain and get back into the more focused, logical decision making part of the brain.
Yeah, that happens to me often when I listen to too much kind of content around science and hormones and health, and all of a
Yes.
sudden my brain is like, I'm out, I just can't even absorb it anymore. So
Yeah.
then I'll turn on some like cheesy news or maybe just some motivation stuff or just something to like change the channel for a
Yeah.
bit. But I've recognized I need that break because I'm wasting my time here. I'm not absorbing any of this. Obviously, a bit different context to other people, but really goes to show that kind of calming things down a bit helps you then with that addressing things in a more, shall we say, sane way
Yeah.
for some of us and a bit more logical approach to it. So that I love how you explained that and your face lit up when you started talking, and that's why I smiled because I could immediately see the change there in that. So before we get into more of the like practicals, the games, the foods, all that, we have to discuss sleep. Because sleep,
Yes.
in my opinion, regardless of nutrition and exercise, which are all important, I personally believe sleep is number one. If you don't have sleep, you don't have anything else.
100%. I'm so glad we're touching on this because I think in our society, especially in the US and our culture is very much like go, 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 go. And I'm definitely like guilty of that. I'm a high achiever. I constantly am on the go. I was just telling my boyfriend how I'm like from one thing to the next to the next to the next. And I really do struggle to slow down. So I understand. But in our society, we very much praise the overachievers. We praise just like constantly going to the next level. And you hear the term all the time, I'll sleep when I die. And it's like, I'm, it's funny to laugh at because I definitely grew up that way.
I
But
laugh, I'm sorry, I laugh because sometimes like I love sleep so much that I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh God, just kill me now. Just
let
leave
me
me.
sleep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I get like that too. And it is funny because I'm the same way in the morning sometimes. Like I could sleep for another 8 hours and I already got 8 hours of sleep. I love it. And I very much used to be like, oh, I only need 4 hours. I can be so much more productive. But the truth is, if you don't get good quality sleep, you're in your brain is very much inhibited on its capacity. I can get this stat for you, but it's something like after like 2 days of not getting quality sleep, your brain's capacity is very similar to somebody who's under the influence of alcohol. That's how much sleep matters. And for so many other reasons, like sleep is when our brain has time to repair. And having poor, not just duration of sleep, the quality of sleep is more important than the duration. I mean, duration is also important, but the quality, how long am I in deep sleep? How long am I in REM? All those different phases are really, really important. And the quality is definitely more, should be prioritized more than the quantity. Um, with that being said, why it's so important is because our brain and body go into repair mode when we sleep. The lymphatic system comes in, which is like our brain's cleanup crew. That's this system that goes in and cleans out all of the junk. And if we're not giving our brain and our bodies the time to do that, that's when we start to get the buildup of tau proteins, amyloid beta, which are notorious for neurodegenerative diseases. And we know that correlation. When you have poor quality sleep, you have a higher risk for dementia and Alzheimer's. And we know that it's very, very clear in the literature. And so I prioritize my sleep. It's probably the number one thing, especially in my recovery from my eating disorder when I was chronically stressed because my body wasn't getting the nutrients it needed. Once I started my healing journey, sleep was always, always prioritized.
Hmm. It's it's again, it's easier said than done because of the way people live nowadays, but I'd also add the way people choose to live. People are choosing, like, okay, your little kids might go to bed at 8, 8:30, but you're choosing to stay up later because that's your me time. And I get it. I have kids, like I get it. But at the same time, I think there's an element where you have to be hard on yourself. Like I have a strict rule. I'm in bed by 8:30, which I know is crazy, but I need my sleep and I want to be a high performer like you. So it's like sleep, my head's
Mm-hmm.
on the pillow at 9. If I get anything less than 9 hours, I'm not optimal at
Mm-hmm.
all. But it's that hard line and I wake up at the same time every day. The only time I might have a bit of flexibility is if I go to a concert or I'm on vacation. And even
Mm-hmm.
then, I'm like really conscious and how do I kind of optimize this the next day? Like, but
Mm-hmm.
it's these hard lines because I definitely do not want any sort of dementia as I get older.
Yeah, absolutely. I like when you said like it's hard and I the way I like to frame it, like I don't have kids, so I can't relate to that. I can only imagine. I have nieces and nephews and I see how it impacts my brother and sister-in-law. But it's kind of like you said, like you have to choose your hard because hard is either going to be you get less quality sleep and you're making up for it tomorrow, or you're choosing the hard now, which is going to bed at 8:39 when you didn't get necessarily get as much me time as you wanted. You didn't get to watch that show you've been looking forward to. You didn't get to have that extra glass of wine or whatever. It's all hard and you have to choose your hard and you have to decide what your priority is, and then live with the consequences. There's going to be consequences either way. So the consequence of going to bed early is you're falling behind on the show, or you feel like you didn't get your me time, or you whatever else, you got a little bit less work done. Or the hard is, okay, I didn't get my 9 hours and tomorrow I'm not going to be optimal and I'm going to have to make up for it then. I'm not going to feel my best. So yeah, everything's full of choices. And I think for a lot of people, um, it's not as easy as just like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do it. It's very much like you have to see the consequences for yourself until you decide to make a change. And that's definitely how it was for me before I started my healing journey. So I can relate to that.
It has to be a choice. It absolutely does. And like, if we were to put it really bluntly, you're either choosing to go to bed early or you're choosing to be miserable and struggle the next day. Because even
Hmm.
in a lot of what I do around hormones and weight loss is like really, again, simply, if you're not sleeping well, how could you even be capable of making good decisions the next day around food and exercise? Like, it's doable. A few people have mammoth discipline, but for the majority of people, that's just going to make everything a lot harder. That's why you
Hmm.
need to optimize for sleep so you're more capable of making the better decisions the next day. And that goes right down to the decision of what to feed your children and how you talk to your children and how you relate to your boyfriend or your spouse or partner and work. Like, it's not just the health aspect, it's like you said, the butterfly effect. It's got a ripple effect. One thing I think you might find interesting, because my kids actually, like my little boy will say, "What did you dream about last night?" Because my dreams are insane. They're like, they literally are like a Godzilla movie or something. They're like crazy funny. And my dreams are just every night I have the most vivid, adventurous dreams. One time I was fighting with Captain America, and I just have the craziest dreams. So he'll ask me, and he finds it entertaining. Um, but I say to my clients, like the way I look at my sleep, apart from it makes me feel good, that is my me time because I consider, because I sleep so well, that for me, sleep is like a mini vacation because I never know what adventure I'm going on next, who I'm going to see. It's always like fun in a sense. I rarely have nightmares. So that in itself is like I say, it's like a mini
Yeah.
vacation when you can optimize sleep and it becomes thoroughly enjoyable and you look forward to, oh, like where am I going tonight? What am I doing tonight? That makes it worthwhile. Like you're more encouraged to like stick to it. Okay, I could stay up and watch Stranger Things or whatever people are watching, or I could just go and live out my own adventure in a sense. It's almost like our dream state and our sleep state, it's a second life. It's an extension to our current life, whatever way you want to look at that, because I know people are talking about the Matrix and all nowadays. So, but I think there is something there to dreaming at the very least.
I 100% agree with you. I'm also a very vivid dreamer and a lucid dreamer, which means like I'm aware that I am asleep while I'm asleep.
Mhm.
So I very much have those dreams. And I think dreams are so powerful. That's actually something I want to get into a little bit more, is dream theory and all of that. I find it absolutely fascinating. But I think our ability to dream and remember our dreams just is a window into the quality of sleep. Because our subconscious has the ability to go there. We're relaxed enough to be able to imagine and get creative and see all these cool things. And I think dreams also give a little bit of and like insight into, like you said, like our future life or our future day or the things that we're thinking about in our subconscious. I think it's such a powerful tool, and I love that you shared that. I think that is so cool.
Well, I was saying to a client last night, she was like, I had a dream last night and it was about my neighbor, and I think my neighbor's pissed off with me. And I was like, well, that's being reflected in your dream. It's clearly in your
Your
subconscious. And
mind.
like, it's like, I couldn't think of a better analogy. So this is what I used. I said, it's like girls who are constantly concerned that their boyfriend or husband is going to have an affair or a cheat or something. They'll dream about it because it's playing on their mind
Mhm.
so much, and it'll bring up even the emotions that it actually happened even though it didn't. It was just a dream.
Yeah, and that's I think that's why dreams are really powerful because it does tell us what's going on in our brain, even if we're not consciously aware of it, aka the subconscious. And that is so important because visualization, this is going back into the neuroscience a little bit, visualization is such a powerful tool. And because our brains don't necessarily know between like you know the difference between like what is real, like what we are experiencing in the world right now. Like I'm sitting looking out the window and I see cars going by. But if I close my eyes and I imagine myself on the beach, your brain doesn't actually know the difference between reality and what you the visualization and what you are sharing with your brain. And so if you're constantly ruminating on these negative thoughts, and I took this from Dr. Daniel Amen, he calls them ants, automatic
Yeah,
negative
yeah.
thoughts. he talks about how powerful they are, and it's true because of this concept of like our brain doesn't know the difference between what we're picturing, what we're thinking about, what's in our mind, and what's actually real. And that is powerful in a negative way if we're constantly ruminating on negative things, things we're worried about, things that we're afraid of happening, or positive things. Like when I was an athlete, I would always use visualization as a tool before I would compete. I would visualize myself having a good game, having good touches on the ball, striking the ball well, having good passes, seeing the field, things slowing down for me. So it is such a powerful tool, and you can use it to be supportive or you can use it to be negative. And it's your back to choice. It's totally your choice. But I don't think people realize how powerful that is, because paired with the visualization, then our reticular activating system, which is part of our brain located in the brainstem, you can kind of of it as like a filtering system. So then, based on what we believe, based on what we're focused on, based on the identity we align ourselves with, our reticular activating system is going to filter the world to find evidence to make that true. So, whatever we're focused on, whatever we're like really um, identifying with, this system in our brain is going to find evidence in the outside world to make it true, whether it's positive or negative. So if you're constantly visualizing yourself being successful and getting that promotion because you're intelligent and you're motivated and all of these positive things, it's going to find evidence to make that true. And if you're constantly telling yourself like, oh, he's lying to me, to go back to your analogy, he's lying to me, he's going to cheat on me, he's having an affair, it's going to find things to make that true.
Hmm.
And a very simple, maybe more relatable example of this is like you've been saving up for this new car, you're super excited about it, you finally get the money, you get the car, and now you notice that car everywhere you go. You see it on the corner of the street, you see it every time you drive past this intersection because you're focused on this car and your brain's going to show you that because you're focused on it. So yeah, it's really fascinating how the brain and visualization works in that way.
Isn't that the basis for Dr. Joe Dispenza's work? I'm sure you know who he is in regards to manifesting things. Like
Yeah.
you can close your eyes and think about the outcome you want to achieve, but not only think about it, like elicit the feelings, really feel it,
Yes.
focus on, and a lot of it's self-control as well, because I've followed a lot of his work and it's practice makes perfect. Like it really is. It's way easier said than done. But when we look at the other side of the coin, the negative thoughts and aspects, and it is in Ireland, we would just like say bad luck just follows this person, or this person just attracts bad luck all the time. But potentially that's true because they're keeping themselves in this negative cycle of as we would say, bringing it onto themselves, like manifesting bad luck. And I have a couple of clients that I feel this is the case with them, that they're just stuck in such a negative cycle and oh, me, poor me, it's always me, and bad luck follows me, and just all of this. And I wish, and I hope this podcast helps them. I wish I could show them even more that at least try look for the silver lining in things and try shift it a little bit and then do it again and again and slowly you get better at it because I think there's a lot to be said for the aspect of manifesting in this sense. I don't think manifesting is all magical as a lot of people
Hmm.
like to make out, but I think it's a combination of looking for the good, being proactive to look for the good. Then there's the aspect of self-belief, obviously, that you can do it, you deserve it, all of that. But it's really interesting to hear you explain it that way because again, it's not like say The Secret, the book The Secret, that kind
Hmm.
of makes it just like seem so magical and it's all in the air. You just have to put your hands out and grab it. If it was that easy, I would be very happy, but it's not that easy. There's a lot more to it. Um, but again, just to not to beat a dead horse to death, but I really see these people who are negative, it's almost like they have a black cloud over them. And I see it affecting their physical health as well. And I think it was Dr. Daniel Amen who said, the body hears what the mind says. And I think that's where we see it then reflective in these physical conditions and negative symptoms and ailments that people are experiencing.
Absolutely. And my certification for somatic, as a somatic practitioner, would talk a lot about the brain and the body connection and how what goes on in the brain can absolutely manifest in physical symptoms in the body. I mean, the placebo effect is such a real thing. I don't think people realize like placebo effect is so real that it's actually included in the efficacy of drug studies because if you believe you are getting a treatment and you in your entire heart and mind and soul you believe that this is going to help you, we see that people get reprieve from some of their symptoms even if they didn't receive a drug at all and or any medical intervention. That is how powerful our brain and body connection is, and it goes in the both directions. So if we're constantly thinking negative, we're in that part of our brain, we're in that fear center of the brain, we're heightening our cortisol, as we already talked about, affects the entire body, our insulin, our sex hormones, our joints, because of the inflammation that it creates, it affects everything. And it is so powerful. And I encourage people to like read up more on the placebo effect because it's not just for drug studies, it's for our own beliefs. And I think something that is really fascinating to kind of touch on is like in my life, I became a teacher at a top university at 26. And did I necessarily feel like I should be there? I'm like, no, I'm super young. Why did they ask me to do this? Are you sure? Like, why me? And I had that little bit of frame of mind. And then I kind of thought, like, well, this feeling of like imposter syndrome, not feeling like I belonged there, let's like lean into that and let's act as if I feel like I belong. And I
Mhm.
started acting in that way, preparing in that way. And now I've been there for 3+ years and I'm have like a really successful class. And so when you operate in a way, even if you don't necessarily feel like you belong, if you ask yourself, if I belonged here and I believe that wholeheartedly, how would this person act? And then you act in accordance with that and you think in accordance with that, your brain and your mind are going to follow. And you'll finally like see yourself starting to actually align and feel like you belong there. And that spans across all different types of examples through life.
I can totally relate to the imposter syndrome. Before you said the word, I was saying it in my head, and I was like, where I feel like I'm like, who am I to be given advice? I'm not as good as these other people. I don't belong here. But then my sane prefrontal cortex brain comes in and says, no, you're just as good as other people. You have something to offer. You have experience, and just acting the way I want to be, I suppose. It's a conscious effort all the
Mm-hmm.
time to not only stay humble, but to stay aware of who I am and what I want, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Fascinating, but I want to get on to your games, but before we do that, no, we'll do the games first. So on
Okay.
your Instagram page, just f fascinating and fun and really hard actually. Is and I encourage everyone to go check this out because you don't ask for anything in return. You're just giving, which is amazing. So it's you have an Instagram page and you post little videos every couple of days and they're of some sort of hand game that you do and they look super easy, but if you try to do them, they're actually not that easy. Um, my question is, the page is amazing, but why did you decide to do something like this? It's so unusual. Like, at what stage did you say, "Oh, I'm going to post this video," and then you noticed it was popular? I'm going to do more of these and more of
Yeah.
these.
Yeah. So I'm very interested in like integrative functional health, and Eastern Chinese medicine, Eastern Indian medicine is really big into that and big into like some of these tools and techniques. So the games that I share, like especially the brain hand games, they're not new. They've been around for a long time, just not here.
Mm.
So I had been turned on to them in studying these other cultures and kind of some of the tools and techniques and games that they do. And I'm like, nobody's doing this here. Like I don't see it here. I'm like, I do this for me. Let me just pop up a video, see if people like it. people loved it. So I started sharing more. I started sharing some of the neuroscience behind it, why it's so hard, even though it looks so simple.
Hmm.
And yeah, it just really caught on. People loved it. So I started doing more and I started creating new patterns and techniques. I started kind of extrapolating on like how to activate our prefrontal cortex and our cerebellum and new and different ways that spanned beyond just the brain hand games, but different working memory challenges, cognitive flexibility challenges, and things like that. And yeah, it's been super fun and great. And I've noticed so much benefit for myself in these games. And so I just wanted to share and make them accessible to people. So
And they're
yeah,
clearly popular. You're at
yeah,
nearly 300,000 followers, which is pretty crazy.
it is
And
crazy.
so the page is Brain Body by Jules. I had to double check because I was used to looking for your other
The
page.
other page, yeah, yep. I decided just to make it a little bit more simple. So yeah.
When you changed it, I'm like, she didn't tell me. So then I was looking for you and I couldn't find you and I was like, oh no, is she gone? So I found you through our messages, but yeah.
Yes.
So they're really, really good. People, you have to go check them out because you won't know what I'm talking about unless you go to see them. Like it's just they have been around for like hundreds of years, but it's completely new here. Like it blew my mind, and I'm in health for 20 years, and I was like, this is new. What is this? And because they're short videos that I'm doing it as I'm going along because anything that helps my brain is a good idea. Like the other
Mm-mm.
day, I got them all right. I'm just saying I'm pretty smart, but whatever. So they're really good. Again, people, you have to check it out or you won't understand what it's like. So I want to ask you, because I know people will be interested in this. We have to give, apart from your games, we have to give some tangible stuff. We said nutrition, sleep, exercise is important. I think most people know that. But I get asked all the time, like, how do I remember stuff? How am I so sharp? Even though some days I'm definitely not. What are my like top foods that I use or supplements to keep my brain like firing as best that I can? Now, obviously, I would attribute the majority of it to sleep and exercise, but my top like five, shall we say, molecules for keeping my brain sharp. I've got coffee and I drink, you probably know Four Sigmatic, the mushroom coffee.
Yep,
So I drink
love
that.
it.
And if I'm a day where I need to be on fire, I'll pick their Lion's Mane brand. Dark chocolate, really good. I try to stick to 100% raw organic
I
dark
love,
chocolate.
yes.
Blueberries is a big one for me. Um, Glycine is a big one for me to help control my inflammation, not just the neuroinflammation, but on every level. Like I'm really cognizant of my inflammation. And a bit kind of more out of the scope that I know not everyone is using, but a lot of my clients are using, and I know there's a lot of conversation now, is molecular hydrogen. I
Mm.
attribute a lot of my sharpness and performance to that. And now I use like the green teas. I do all this stuff, but those are be like my top ones. Oh, wait, number six, pure krill oil for the EPA and
Mm.
DHA. Always, always that.
That's what I was going to add as well. I was going to add some form of DHA and yeah, so same. I was going to add that. I would also add any type of fatty fish is great for omega 3s. And then I love turmeric with um, black pepper for inflammation support. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Totally agree. All of those.
So you have shared some food kind of clips a few times
Hmm.
that I've noticed. Sardines seems to be a big thing for you.
Sardines.
And I'm
Yes.
like, sardines,
I
gross.
get that. Yeah, I totally get that. You could also do salmon. That's another one. You could do salmon.
Are you more, what would you say your nutritional template is? Are you more of an omnivore? Do you try to stick to keto? What would you say it is?
I follow a paleo diet, so no processed food, no gluten, no dairy. Although I don't think dairy is necessarily evil. I'm lactose intolerant, so it does not agree with me. Um, I do white rice, so that's not quite paleo. That's the only grain that I do. Um, but other than that, I'm omnivore. I eat high quality animal proteins, grass fed, pasture raised. absolutely do prioritize spending a little bit of extra money on that because that's how I feel my best.
Mhm.
But if your budget doesn't allow, there's other great ways that you can like limit, some of the pesticides and stuff through just different washing techniques. And um, I also always a resource I like to share is the EWG Dirty Dozen list. That's a really good resource. You can go check that out. But I do prioritize the the grass fed, the pasture raised, and the organic um, fruits and vegetables. I'm not a fan of extreme diets in either direction. I think if you stick mostly to whole unprocessed foods, you're on a great track and you're going to naturally just reduce inflammation. But if you're constantly getting super highly processed food, sugary drinks, you're going to get spikes in glucose, which are going to infect your insulin, which we already talked about, and create some inflammation. So I think in general, if you can stick to mostly whole unprocessed foods, you're on the right track.
So you believe that the likes of fruits and some other carbs or sugars do have a place in not just health, but also like brain health and cognitive performance?
Yeah, I think so. I think, yeah, I don't subscribe to any of the super extreme diets long term. I think a diet like keto can be used as a tool temporarily, but I don't think it's sustainable, especially for women, at least not long term. Like,
Mhm.
I think the most optimal state for people is our ability to shift between energy sources. So being metabolically flexible enough to switch to ketones if we need to,
Mhm.
or to burn glucose and glycogen as primary fuel source if we need to. With that being said, kind of like I already mentioned, like these different diets can be used as tools, but I think if we can be flexible with the foods that we eat, as long as they're whole and unprocessed, our ability to manage and maintain energy no matter what we're taking in is like the true sign of optimal health.
So someone's going to say, Shemaine paid her to say that because that's what I say. Like,
Oh, really?
you need to be able to switch between fuel sources without your
Yeah.
body panicking. If your body
Yes.
panics and you feel hungry or you go hypoglycemic or something, you have an issue. You're not metabolically
Mhm.
flexible.
Absolutely.
So, last thing, what I've noticed talking to you, and I noticed in your videos, is not only do you have like such a sweet persona
Oh,
and demeanor, like, and I've seen people comment on your post saying that before, that as we're speaking, sometimes I'll just get wired and I'll go, go, go. And I'm like, is it the blue lights or am I just wired today? But you're very paced. You control your speed. You take your time to think and you just like, you're very calm and collected through the whole conversation. Is that something you've had to work on? Are you conscious of it? Or is it just your personality?
that is really sweet. Thank you for saying that. I don't know if this is always going to be on video, but I was smiling the whole time you were saying that. So thank you. I would say I've always just been pretty chill person. I've never like been extremely emotional, like in either direction, like very, very like wired and hyperactive, or like very just on the opposite direction. I think a lot of that is just how much I love to be outside and be active. I think that just helps me to regulate like my mood. I also do a ton of breath work, which keeps me grounded and regulated and like feeling safe in my body. I will say when I was at the height of my eating disorder, I knew something was wrong because I was constantly anxious, on edge, and that's not me. Like this who I am now and who I present on my page is just being like calm and nice and like pretty genuine. Like that is me. And so when I'm not acting in that way, I know something is off and I need to address something. But I would attribute it just I'd say my personality in general is just very calm and chill and relaxed, but I think that is just because of how I take care of myself. I get my sleep. I don't eat inflammatory foods. I follow paleo diet plus rice, as I just said.
Mhm.
I exercise multiple times a week. I'm outside a lot. I do breath work. I get morning sunlight. I like to ground. I think all of those things like come together to keep my body feeling relaxed and safe, which allows me to just be calm at all times.
And you're pretty busy with your teaching and the videos now, but you
Yeah,
make all this other stuff happen. Like you prioritize and make sure I get some sunlight, some grounding, the fresh air. Like you just, it's a priority.
it is a priority. And I've had to sacrifice other things. Like if I didn't prioritize those things, then I probably could be moving a lot quicker with my page and I could be, but to me, it's not worth that sacrifice. To me, prioritizing these things that like keep me happy and keep me healthy are what allow me to be productive. Like being structured in my wellness and in how I take care of myself is what allows me to be successful and to be having this conversation with you. And so again, it comes back to choice and like choose your heart. Like people would say, oh, that's too much, like eating that well and preparing your food and going for walks and going to the gym every morning, that's hard. I'm like, yeah, it is hard. But also, what would be harder for me is in 20 years, I look back and I regret not putting in the effort and not like being successful when I had the energy and the time and the lack of like fear to do it.
And I always think like I want to live till my dying days moving without a walking
Yeah,
stick or needing to like shall we say burden my kids that they need to take care of me or
yeah,
anything. Like that's how I'm thinking. No, like there's so much this world and life has to give. I just it's it's there for the taking if you're willing to put in the work.
100%. You put that perfectly. I totally agree.
So, speaking of work, you recently brought out a new, like really recently, a course for
Yeah.
people to take. And not only it's a course for individuals, but here where I'm located, I have a lot of followers and clients that are teachers as well, believe it or not, like a lot who follow me because it's a small community, like they know. Um, so you also brought out one to support schools, to
Yes.
schools, pun intended, because it's called
Yeah.
school.
Yeah. Yeah, so I recently launched a school community, SKOOL, and it's this online platform that allows me to share even more than what I'm able to on Instagram. So I on Instagram, I give these fun short little videos, neuroscience nuggets, I call them. But people wanted more and they were asking me for more. And so I created a school community, and within that community, I have different classrooms, they're called, and basically they're just different courses. And I have one for how to support your memory, the 5 pillars of a better memory. And then I take you through some of the science behind it. I take you through practicing and testing your memory. And then I have a classroom slash course for the classroom for all of my teachers, because I've had so many teachers reach out and ask me, like, can you create something that I can share with my students before class or as a brain break? Or so I did that. And they're all focused on different things. So challenging our working memory, challenging our coordination, our cognitive flexibility, our inhibitory control, which are all so important for students to feel sharp and to feel confident and to feel prepared. And plus, they're just super fun little brain breaks that are accessible and give you a good laugh and that you want to take home to your family and try with them. And so I have so many different courses in there. The link is in my bio on my page, but I share so much and I keep it super, super affordable because I want people to have access to it. So, and I have a free trial up there too, because I want people to be able to try it without like having to risk anything. You can come check it out, try it, and if you don't like it, you can cancel. So that was kind of my way of trying to share even more and give people what they were asking for, where I on Instagram, it's kind of limited on what I'm able to do. So yeah.
It's really, really good. Like I encourage people to check it out. It's you won't know until you see it. It's really good. But also, I don't know if you've considered this. I think this has the potential to be a great board game around Christmas or something like that, and all the families.
Yeah.
Or when I was queuing up in Orlando last year, like queuing for the rides, I used to see people and they'd like have their phone like this. So they were playing some
Yeah.
word guessing game or
Yes.
could be onto
I have,
something there.
you're right. I have like briefly thought about this, but I think in a dream actually, going back to dreams, but Yeah, I have thought about it. You're right. I need to look into that. I think that would be so fun. I love to like bring it home and have my boyfriend try to do it with me, and it's so fun.
I think
So
a
yeah,
board game
maybe.
could be good because you could get the young kids and the grandparents
Hmm.
involved, like everyone could get involved. And obviously, we're trying to veer people away from electronics.
Yes,
But
yeah, go back to the basics. And actually, that's a really big reason why I started sharing this because I think when the whole world is going towards electronics, towards AI, towards all this stuff, I'm kind of like, I'm gonna go the other way because we need a break from that. And so that's why I love these games so much because yes, you're watching me on a screen, but then you can take it and you can share it with your family, no screens involved. So I have like intentionally leaned into that like no screen type of playful movement that activates multiple areas of the brain. So I'm glad you
Jill,
recognize that.
if you don't mind, one thing just popped into my head, just really quick, because I've
Yes.
heard Diary of a CEO discuss this recently, and a lot of people. What do you think about the concern around ChatGPT and how it's affecting our
Yeah.
ability to think for ourselves and be creative for ourselves? And
Yeah.
are you concerned with that?
Yeah, 100%. I also, that is my favorite podcast of all time, Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett. I was listening to it on the way here actually. And yeah, it's absolutely concerning. I mean, there's just a few studies out now, and they're all pretty much telling us the same thing that people who constantly use ChatGPT, you see their brain being not as creative. You're not activating the same areas of the brain. They don't remember what they created. They don't have the cognitive flexibility. They don't have the same processing ability, the same problem solving ability. And I think like this short term fix is going to lead to like long term effects. And it's very scary. With that being said, it's going to be here and there's ways you can work with it to actually have the opposite effect. So if you're trying to learn something, you're trying to grasp a concept that is like really difficult to you, but you really want to learn this thing, you want to understand it. A way you can use ChatGPT to support you and not hinder you is to say like, "Hey, I'm trying to remember this really complex concept about the anterior cingulate cortex in the brain. Give me a metaphor to help me understand."
Mhm.
That is a way that you can actually use it to be supportive. And some of the research has shown, like, if you use it in a certain way to actually support your own learning, not to do your work for you, then it can be beneficial in that way and helping you understand these concepts, which then will lead to more curiosity down the line. So there's definitely ways you can work with it. I don't think it's innately bad, like most things. I think is how we utilize it and what we have it do for us. But with that being said, I think most people are going to use it to do their work for them rather than coming up with the script on their own, coming up with their own ideas, and then saying, hey, help me make this better, or tell me what I should have done to make this better. And then maybe next time you use those tools and techniques to make it better without having to leverage it in itself.
I can totally tell when I see my colleagues or people I know do a post, I can see this was generated by AI or chat.
Yeah.
You can tell they haven't proofread it, they haven't fixed the grammar
Mm-hmm.
errors or anything. And I heard somewhere that a lot of these social media, their AI system can differentiate between what was created by human, by you,
Mm-hmm.
and what was done by, say, ChatGPT, and it will basically block it from the algorithm so you're not going to get as many views. And I've seen this. I've seen some of my colleagues, one of them comes to mind where she was so creative, but now most of her posts are AI generated and she just does not get the likes or the interaction that she used to. Like people know.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's just going to continue to grow. And I think it's going to be how do we work with it? Because it's not going away. We're going to have to learn how to work with it and live with it. And I think it's what they're doing on the Diary of a CEO and making people aware of what this is going to do to our brain, to our creativity, to how we connect with others, is going to have serious implications. So I think knowing it's not going anywhere, it's important to educate on how to use it the right way.
And I think this is also why we should hold our books closer as well. But that's a
Physical books.
conversation for
Yeah.
another day. Yeah, I think books nowadays are undervalued and underrated, but Again,
Agree.
another conversation. I've taken up enough of your time. You were gracious enough to even agree to this, so thank you. I appreciate you
Thank you.
so much and your work, and I'm going to keep following and sharing, and you keep doing it. Just don't stop because we need you to do this.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I would be so happy to come back anytime. So just let me know. I really enjoyed this conversation.
If we do, we have to discuss books, but whatever you get into in the realm of dreams, that would be really
Yes,
interesting.
I would love that.
Okay. Well, you have a great day. Thank you, Jules. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.